A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
From the offseason to the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
Welcome into one giant step. One giant freaking step. We are taping this right now on April 24th, 2025. A Thursday night that, for better or worse, is going to be remembered forever for New York Giants fans alive today. I actually don't think that sentence is an overreaction. I'm Shaun Morash. He's Bryce Gelman. Bryce, I have a couple different directions I want to take the pod, so don't jump ahead too much. Don't say why. Don't explain further. Then just give me a word to describe you as a New York Giant fan as you sit right now with the first round winding down.
Content.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, the Knicks won. I'm in my Knicks jersey. If you're listening to this on audio.
What a fun end of the game that was, too.
Yeah, listen, content because they won, and the Giants drafted the guy I wanted to draft, and Abdul Carter, and they traded up and got their quarterback. And we'll get into all the things that we need to get into, but content. What about you?
Excited. Look, let's cut to the chase right here. You can have an opinion on a lot of different players in this draft. I don't think you could debate that the best player in this draft was either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, depending on what you're looking for. So if we operate under the assumption we're okay making that statement with both of those players, the New York Giants put us through a year of suctitude that we will never get back in our lives.
Yeah.
But in theory, delivered their fans the best player in the upcoming draft as a result, even without getting the first overall pick. That part, Bryce, I think we could at least agree on that.
100%.
Now, as far as the quarterback situation, Joe Schoen gets a lot of crap, and a lot of crap has been deserved. He was digging out of an enormous hole that the organization had been in with Dave Gelman, but he has not made enough strides to make the roster better to this point. He had not taken a swing at quarterback. Tonight, Joe Schoen could have gone a couple different directions, and directions, unfortunately, I think we would have seen go the other way with past general managers, Bryce. Let the Browns trade out of number 2 for Travis Hunter, putting the Browns, who need a quarterback, at pick number 5, but with loaded ammo of next year's draft and everything. And the Jags take Travis Hunter. I believe Dave Gettleman picking at 3rd overall would not have taken the best player available then, even though I know he had taken Saquon at number 2. I think if he panicked, the Browns were now going to get his quarterback because they had not gotten Travis Hunter. He would have taken quarterback there, and that would have been Jaxson Dart at 3. So they got the best player, right? Now, as far as the quarterback goes, like with Jaxson Dart, they waited. Steelers pick and passed. And it was a gamble, but it worked out.
Shocking.
Because the Giants still, I think, pay a substantial amount here, that extra comp pick, 3rd round pick. But they also give up next year's 3rd and a pick later, the 6th rounder this year, I believe, is the compensation. So, yeah, you're losing one of your 3rds that could have been a D tackle or a guard this year. And you're losing next year's 3rd. But again, 3rd rounders have been real crapshoots for the Giants. And they get the quarterback that they want. And that by all accounts in the past couple days and weeks, Bryce, the quarterback that Brian Daboll wanted.
Yep.
And before we get into how me and Bryce feel about Jaxson Dart, let me just say this. I know what I felt about Brian Daboll, which is I would not feel like I was fulfilled with the Brian Daboll experience if I didn't get to see him try to play and mold his own quarterback that he developed. And he seemingly got that tonight. And on top of that, the Giants got the best player in the draft, right? I mean, are we in agreement to kind of surmise that so far?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm not angry with this pick whatsoever. I mean, I think we're both in agreement on this being the right move if they're right. You know, like, That's the thing. This is all a matter if you trust Brian Daboll or not. And there are a lot of fans out there who don't. So naturally, they're not going to like this pick. But let's get into Jaxson Dart, the player, you know, and not what Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen just did.
So I'm going on the record right now. I don't think ultimately Jaxson Dart will be a elite NFL starting quarterback. That's my gut reaction after watching enough of him in college. I thought that coming into the draft. I don't see it with Jaxson Dart. I've been wrong, though, on a ton of quarterbacks, as you all are listening. Bryce has been before. There have been quarterbacks, so I don't see that in them. And then they take off and they're awesome. They're quarterbacks. I think they're going to be awesome, and they stink. So this is one where I very, 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 very much hope I'm wrong. The reasons I don't like him, you might be asking. Well, instead of just throwing it against the wall. Look, he played, obviously, in USC, switches over when Caleb Williams comes over, the whole Lincoln Riley thing, goes and plays 3 years of SEC football, which I think is important, right? You're playing against the best defenses. I think that makes him battle-tested. But as we got to his final year here with everything on the line, Ole Miss could have been in a college football playoff. They had him essentially stink up the place in the fourth quarter versus the Florida Gators, and he was a big part, Jaxson Dart was, why Ole Miss lost that game and missed the playoff. And honestly, had a couple bad moments, bad turnovers, fourth quarter in games earlier in the year that led them to needing that last win to set up a playoff. I believe that he has made some panic throws, not going through his progressions. I believe, Riddick and company on ESPN were talking about this tonight. But I understand the raw stuff, right? He has, mobility and plays physical mobile-wise, a la Josh Allen. That's what it remind you of. His throws into tight windows, a great tight window thrower, as Mike Francesa would say. And he does have a pretty big arm. So I understand on baking on traits, but for me, so much quarterbacking is between the ears. And look, I just watched enough SEC football the last 3 years to go, here comes Jaxson Dart again in the fourth quarter. And that is not exactly a recipe for clutch performances and figuring that part out in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about Dart is that he sometimes will force throws downfield when it's not there, into double coverage, into triple coverage. And what you mentioned about the fourth quarters, I think it's hilarious because the Giants, and this is the thing, I know some fans are going to draw the comparison, Ole Miss. The other guy the Giants drafted, 21 years ago from Ole Miss, who, famously was known and like the one trait Eli Manning had. The reason why the Giants won 2 Super Bowls is because of what he did in the fourth quarter, what he did in the big moments. So the Giants going out of their way and drafting, listen, the first pick they made, that plays into all the narratives the Giants have had forever. They are successful when their defensive line is successful. And they have a top 3 or top 4 defensive line. I think they have the best defensive line in football right now as it stands. We're going to get into that. I'm sure a bunch of other fans from different teams don't. It's the best. They have unbelievable depth now. It's the best. The thing is with the Giants and quarterbacks, they're quarterbacks who have won championships, the Super Bowl, perform in the clutch.
Yeah.
They perform in the clutch.
Yeah. Now, look, unlike a guy like Tyler Shook, Jaxson Dart, Bryce, Jaxson Dart also a really young player and a young prospect. He's played a lot of football for his age.
It's like 12,000 yards he's thrown for.
Yeah, and last year was a touchdown to interception ratio. So that's the other thing. Jaxson Dart got better every year. I just think some of those little things. He's going to be 22 years old in 2 weeks. I just looked down because I realized Jaxson Dart shares the same birthday as me, May 13th.
Ah, there you go.
But I like him a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be 22 years old. He's young. He's played a ton of football at that age. So they're banking on trades. They're banking on age, not a finished product. This is where I'm going to try to lean positive. Look, there's going to be a lot of times to curse him out and be miserable and think he's not getting it. I'm going to hope I'm wrong. And I think this is where signing Russell Wilson plays a big part in this. They took the 3rd overall pick in Abdul Carter. I think Jaxson Dart is going to be under enormous pressure no matter when he gets on the field because he was a first-round pick. But you're getting the immediate return on your top pick being able to play while having signed a veteran quarterback, meaning we don't have to rush this thing in August. In fact, I think I would absolutely be floored if Jaxson Dart is starting week 1 for this Giant team, Bryce.
It's not happening. Yeah,
no, but my point is, I know that seasons are weird, and when they fall off the tracks, you want to see the rookie. But there's also a chance the Giants season never truly falls off the tracks, meaning best case scenario, the Giants don't even see Jaxson Dart actually play all year because it means the team's probably pretty good because you're not turning to him if Russell Wilson's defense is cooking, winning football games.
That's best case for Brian Dable and Joe Shane as well, more than anyone.
Yeah. You keep your job, and we haven't even showed you the quarterback yet. Also, I think that just would be better. Let's be real. For everybody that doesn't like Joe Shane and Brian Dable, my message to you be get the hell over it, okay? Because here we are. They're here. They've made the selection. There's no point in rooting for you to be right. You hope this kid succeeds. You hope the team succeeds with Russell Wilson this year, and they keep their jobs. Because the best thing for the Giants and all of us fans is for them to be right. And for the actual development of Jaxson Dart and their plan, if it is, hey, hopefully we never see him all year, that's just like letting the pasta boil a little longer. We don't got a little al dente. It's perfect. So the Giants, there's a world we're living in where we look back tonight, Bryce, and go, that was it. We got the Hall of Fame pass rusher, and we got the quarterback to put us over the top, and that dug us out of our misery once and for all. Like, we could be negative, but think about it, that world does exist.
I don't really see a worst case scenario here, Shaun. Like, worst case scenario is Abdul Carter sucks. Jaxson Dart never turns into anything. I think Abdul Carter
there's no way both of those things are going to happen.
I think Abdul Carter is as sure of a prospect the Giants have ever drafted out of the draft, right? Like look at the recent Saquon.
To be fair,
to
be fair, that line surest the prospect. Malik Neighbors kind of felt like a surest the prospect.
Yeah, but like at 6, there was another guy ahead of him. This is the best edge rusher in the draft and a consensus top 2 player in the draft. So I think looking at it from that lens is like, yeah, this could be one of the best days in Giants history. It's whether or not you trust. But again, what it boils down to is whether or not you could trust Brian Daboll or Joe Schoen here. And I do. I think both of us have talked about it. We're a pro Daboll and pro Schoen podcast, even after the BS that we saw at the end of the year and the questions that a lot of people had for them and the calls for their heads that a lot of people had. We stuck by our opinion. We stood by everything we've talked about on the show. And that's not going to stop now, just because maybe I think they could have gotten Jaxson Dart at 34 and they had to trade up, but trading up now, they have the 5th-year option. If he turns out to be a great quarterback,
that's why that's
irrelevant. For the 5th year. Can you imagine if they signed him and he doesn't play the first year, he's amazing the second year,
right?
You got 2.5 years of him?
No, it's the no-brainer. You give up that capital to ensure the 5th-year option possibility.
It's not like they gave up. It's not like they gave up a future for like the Rams. Who traded up with the Rams? I forgot who it was. Just now. Just the
I didn't see it.
The pick after the Texans. Hold on. The pick after the Texans. The Falcons trade up from 46, and they get the 26th pick and a 3rd round pick this year. They give up the 46th pick and a 1st round pick in 2026. The Giants gave up the 34th pick. I understand that's 12 picks different, but a future 1st round pick. The Giants gave up two third rounders and technically, I mean, it's a late 1st rounder, the 34th pick. So there you go. It was a no-brainer. I understand you're giving up 2 potential starters for this team, but I think the Giants look at the situation. And, if they have to trade back up to get a defensive tackle, that's the one real pressing need they have, Shaun, with giving up their they still have the earlier 3rd round pick, but,
I think that's where it's going to go. I think they're going D tackle at 65.
Have to. That's the biggest lock of the draft.
With that, because it looks like there's going to be still plenty of D tackles left in that range. I mean, again, we haven't even seen round 2 yet, but it feels like a big round 2 and round 3 D tackle spot. Bryce, Abdul Carter. I want to get to TV coverage in a second, but first, Abdul Carter overall. And I think we'll do probably more deep dives on this the next 2 weeks to get more pumped up about it. Giants taking 3 guys on the modern draft era in the front 7 in the top 3, right? Carl Banks, Lawrence Taylor, now Abdul Carter. He just fits the mold. The idea of the bend, the twitch, explosive plays off the edge. You invested in Burns. You still have Kayvon on this team. By the way, put a pin in that because I think you're already wrong on something. We heard Joe Schoen talk about it. The Dexter-Lawrence combination in the middle. Bobby Okereke, you hope, has a bounce-back year. What they invested in Javon Holland, Paulson Adebo to go with the picks of last year in Newman and Phillips. It's okay to just sit back and go, wait, I'm not overlooking at something, right? The team that's been very bad for very much a long time, between free agency, development on last year's rookies, and now the draft, the Giants very quickly could be turning a unit that drove us nuts into a top 10 defense, Bryce. And I don't think that's an outrageous statement heading into 2026 as it stands now, 2025, before they even take a D tackle.
100%. And Shaun, I'm stoked. I'm stoked for next year.
I am too. I'm too. You know what? Like, no matter what offensively, their defense is going to be awesome and fun to watch.
Exactly. And Shaun, here's the thing. With the schedule they currently have, does anyone really expect the Giants to be good next year? Does anyone expect them to win 9-10 games? No. They're playing with house money. Like, if they have a good year next year, terrific. Amazing. It's like the Yankees in 2017. There were no expectations, and I understand.
Pass rush versus some of these great teams, that's how you upset in those games.
Exactly. And that's how the Giants have upset teams in the past. That's how they do it. That's how they're successful. And they addressed the one major need, the one major thing that's helped them win in the past. And I've said it a multitude of times. I say it on my own stuff with the Knicks, with the Giants, with the Yankees. Some teams in certain cities win a certain way. The Giants in New York City have continuously won with a top 5 in the NFL pass rush, and a pass rush who plays like a top 1 pass rush in big moments. Shaun, I think there's no doubt about it. I said it before in this podcast. This is the best pass rush in the league. And they also have, I'm hammering this point home. I've said it throughout this season. Dexter Lawrence is a top 2 defensive player in football. He might be a top 10 player in all of football. He might be. You know, look at his double team rate. He led the league in sacks up until week 7 or week 8 as a defensive tackle. That's unheard of. So you add Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, who obviously devoted a significant amount of money towards the next 4 or 5 years.
But that's all right. Abdul Carter's going to be playing on his rookie deal.
5 years. 5 years.
And they might come to an extension year 4 or 5. But the point is,
but you get my point.
The Brian Burns salary and what they paid him. By the time Abdul Carter gets to his second contract, it's probably going to be the end of Brian Burns making big money. This is actually going to time out perfectly in that aspect while getting those guys to play together. Oh, by the way, we played on doing the Do You Trade Kayvon podcast. Joe Shane basically squashes that and says, nope, we've already told them we're picking up the 5th-year option. The Giants, and I think this is the great move, Bryce, that couple with everything, they are going for it defensively. And they're looking to have a pass rush in waves, and Abdul Carter adds that. Now, again, we're chopping this up. We're going to follow up. We're going to do another recap pod probably at the end of the draft at this point, with the Giants only having picked 65 since they use both now. And then I want to clean up, and we're going to do a deeper dive on Abdul Carter, Jaxson Dart. So don't worry, we've just scratched the itch. I did want to get to this immediate reaction draft night. We're doing this. Okay, Abdul Carter, Jaxson Dart. Bryce, I don't know what you were watching. Obviously, this was a Knicks night as well. What has happened to Mel Kiper? Mel Kiper was everything you looked forward to on draft night.
I know.
Mel Kiper, your team selection, and that the sound that it makes when the draft pick comes in. Those are the 3 things you watch the draft for. Yeah. Mel Kiper.
Joke.
Is almost as if he got space jammed for draft coverage. Like somebody sucked his Mel Kiper's powers out and he lost what was magical about Mel Kiper. See, here's the thing. The Mel Kiper I know, Bryce, the Mel Kiper I grew up with, when a team made a selection and the highlight package rang off, and I'm talking about years where Mel Kiper got us through where not everybody was watching all these college football games and NFL games. Like, you lived for highlights. Mel Kiper would then discuss over the highlights the positive traits a guy brings to a team.
Yeah.
And only in the rarest of instances would save 30 seconds after those positive traits to tell you, but I still think this could be a bust, like those rare ones, but mostly he was positive. Mel Kiper suddenly is Mr. I'm going to pick a guy I like in the draft. And when he falls in the draft and I don't get my way and I look like a fool, I'm now going to urinate on every selection that a team makes because my guy didn't get picked. And what Giants fans who want to be excited about Jaxson Dart, again, Giants fans that could end up hating Jaxson Dart down the line, but want to be excited, just sat through on ESPN, was Mel Kiper like a dog at a dog park.
Crazy.
Going up to a chain link fence, lifting his leg and urinating all over the Jaxson Dart pick. And not urinating over because he didn't like him, because as highlights are playing, he just couldn't stop worrying and bitching about Shedeur Sanders and falling. That was horrible. It ruined the whole Jaxson Dart moment for me. I'm so worried about Shedeur Sanders. Who gives a damn?
He's trying to save his ass because Shedeur was his number 1 quarterback prospect. And what he had projected in the top 5. He's the highest. out of all the draft analysts, you can name any of them. McShay, I can go through all of them. Kuiper was the highest on Shedeur Sanders, and instead of, to your credit, hyping up Jaxson Dart, talking about his strengths, talking about his weaknesses, he sat there and tried to save his own ass, because it does not look good for him right now that Shedeur Sanders is falling. I just don't know, Shaun, if that was the best moment to make that point. He could have waited until after the highlight package. Oh, yeah. Okay. Jaxson Dart does this, this, and this. Okay. Now that the pick is over, now we're looking forward to the Falcons pick. Why hasn't Shedeur Sanders been picked? This is what the history is, Dan, whatever. You get into that after, not during a guy's highlight package. And maybe that's a good omen, Shaun. It's almost like the one thing I think of, and they were showing a million commercials, of course, before Jaxson Dart was picked. The one thing I could think of is when Nikola Jokic got selected during a Taco Bell commercial. Like, I know it's like, apples and oranges, but I'm just saying it's the one thing I could think of where, something like that happened.
This has been an insane night. Giants football, Jaxson Dart, Abdul Carter. Just a weird night, Bryce. I think we said at the beginning in the Knicks win, you said content, I said excited. And it may not have sounded excited. I think we're just so curious about where this goes next, and probably a bit of nervousness as well, because the Giants' future is in the hands with this draft, like it or not. And it is going to be interesting. And I will just end with the pod with this. You're going to see a picture that floats around the internet. Yes, after a bad loss, Jaxson Dart cried in the arms of Joe Judge at Ole Miss. That exists. That's not Photoshop. Don't let it ruin your Friday.
Just wait.
Stay up, kids. You're going to want to download and subscribe to One Giant Step. Full draft reaction overall to everything when it's said and done. If something crazy breaks, me and Bryce will try to pop through with you on the weekend. But if not, catch us, probably sometime early next week. Then we'll go a little deeper thoughts on the draft prospects in the next week and a half that follows. And then more One Giant Step. Eventually we'll have a schedule release as well. So all Giant fans, thank you very much. The fans that came out, by the way, to American Dream, thank you so much coming by, telling me you love the pod. We appreciate it. You can download, subscribe to One Giant Step anywhere podcasts are available from the Audacy app. Enjoy the rest of the draft weekend. Let's go, Big Blue.